Hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how I created the Undertaker's hat from Black Butler. I used Simplicity's 8713 pattern as the base, and I am using the first image on there for the top hat. With this pattern I have had it for several years and I've actually lost several pieces of it, don't know where it's at, so I had to recreate some of it. The pieces I did use were the crown, the brim, and the band of the hat. So the crown and the band of the hat, I used this really stiff interfacing for it, and the brim I used some canvas material. And I did make a small lining to go on the inside. However, later on you'll see that I did not put it together correctly. Once all the interfacing pieces are cut out, I go ahead and actually use my outside fabric, which I chose this black suede material. I will cut two pieces of the brim. I will not be cutting out the band or the crown just yet, because this hat is not a normal flat top hat, it's like wrinkly on top. And for the brim, I do not cut the head hole out just yet. I will do that later after everything is stitched down. For the brim to have some structure and I can mold it to the way the reference image looks, I use this floral wire and I will zigzag stitch it on the outside of the brim. Go ahead and trim the excess material off the sides. To cover the wire and that raw edge, I use bias tape. I will stitch it on one side and then I will fold it over and then stitch it again. I do stitch on the inside of the brim where the head would go, just to keep that material from moving around. And I give it a good press to get that bias tape to stay down, and then I will go ahead and stitch it. And now I cut the center hole out. I make sure there's at least a ½ inch seam allowance between the stitches that I did and the hole that I cut out, because I will be using this to attach it to the band of the hat. As for the band, I go ahead and take it and I will stitch it down the center back. Since this material is really stiff, I want to make sure that you cannot see the seams on the outside, so I will hot glue this seam down to make it flat. For the brim, I go ahead and clip those curves because I am now going to attach that band to the brim, and I will be using hot glue for this. My band was a little bit too tall, so here I just cut it in half. Since the band part was the piece I lost, and I'm basically making it up, I did not have the correct piece for the crown, so here I'm just making a pattern for that. And I will be cutting this out of inners facing. And I go ahead and clip the curves on that crown, and I will attach this to the top of the hat as well with hot glue. This is the piece I messed up on. This is actually the lining piece. And what I did was I just sewed the seam up, and then I will cover this with the suede material as well. I should have actually sewn the black suede material to the brim of the hat before I attached it to this interfacing part. Actually, I should have not even used interfacing for this, just the black suede material. And this is where I messed up on it. This was supposed to actually cover the raw edges of the interfacing for the brim. But as you can see, it didn't do that. So instead, I just glued this in there, and then I attached some bias tape to the raw edge. The inside is ugly, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be covered with a whole bunch of fabric. For the outside of the hat, I used the same suede material as I used on the brim, and I just took the circumference of the hat band, and I will actually measure that out on my fabric with some seam allowance and a little bit of extra so that way I can wrinkle it up. And I will actually make it double the size of how tall the hat is. The Undertaker also has this thing coming off the top of his hat. I don't know what you would call it, but it's like just a piece of fabric that flows off. So I just drew on my fabric like a weirdly shaped triangle, and I cut that 2 pieces out of that, and I will sew that together. And then I take the top of the hat and I will trace out a oval shape for the crown. And then I just go ahead and sew up all those seams. I will take the weirdly shaped triangle, put those 2 pieces together, right sides to right sides, sew them all the way up except for I will leave the short end open so I can flip it right sides out. I will go ahead and sew the seam to the band. And I'm just checking for the placement right now of where it's going to be on the hat. And then stick it on my hat, so that way I know exactly where I need to sew this triangle thingy at. And then I will go ahead and attach my crown to the band, making sure to sandwich that triangle thingy in between the crown and the band. And with that, the outside fashion fabric is done. And then I will go ahead and place this on the hat. I will hot glue the fabric down to the crown, and then I will go ahead and wrinkle it up the way I want it. And I will fold in the raw edges and hot glue that onto the hat as well. And I have a completed Undertaker hat. Even though I was missing some pieces to the base pattern, this was actually quite fun to make. And I think it came out pretty darn close to the reference image. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you next time.